This is my third attempt at trying to make this video because I am so long-winded. Hey people, it's traicetrak, just your friendly neighborhood spaz, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episode of The Walking Dead, Say the Word. Let's hit the ground running and talk about the sequence that everyone was anticipating for the last week. Rick's meltdown. That has to be one of the most amazing zombie killing sprees I've seen since The Walking Dead started. He's heading towards you and he swings the axe to the right. Wait, that's the right. He swings it to the left. You're seeing gore splatter out behind him from unseen zombies he's just killed. And the look on his face is so freaking intense. So that was a big payoff. And I don't know if you realized, but Rick only had one line the entire episode. At the very end, and it was one word and it had nothing to do with any of the angst he had just poured out of his soul. Meanwhile, back at the crew, everyone's concerned about the new baby girl that Lori has just delivered at the expense of her life. Now this is where it gets kind of interesting for me. Daryl is my favorite character and he really steps up, as he did in season 2 when Sophia was missing in the woods. He was the one that put his life on the line, literally. While everyone else was making plans and laying out grids to search for her, he was really taking it upon himself to do everything within his power to find Sophia. And here he is, telling Beth to look after Carl, and saying, no, not her, we're not going to lose another one, talking about the baby. Now maybe you're putting 2 and 2 together like I am. Daryl, for all his redneck gruffness, and he's a survivalist, he's a real tough guy, he has a heart for kids. Are you noticing that? When he and Maggie end up in the daycare center, they make a point of showing him see the little paper hand cutout on the wall that has Sophia's name on it. Then when we're back at the prison at the end of the episode, Daryl heads straight to Carl to take the baby out of his arms. He ends up being the one feeding her. And the baby settled down as soon as Daryl took her into his arms. And actually, the sound effects, well, they went a little overboard there. She was actually gurgling like she was happy. It was a little, you know, hitting us over the head, hard sell. We don't need that hard sell, guys. We're getting it. Daryl loves kids. I wouldn't be surprised if Daryl is going to step in at this point to become a father figure to both Carl and the little girl. Rick, now he's in his grief, so we'll see what happens next. But it doesn't seem very promising that he's going to step up to the father role. It's going to be interesting to see if Rick blames the baby whose birth came at the expense of the mother's life. And with this baby's paternity being uncertain, you know, he just may not be inclined to bond with her. Now, on the other end of the spectrum with Rick's zombie killing spree, we have Michonne, who is very much more methodical and emotionless as she eviscerates the zombies that have been held captive by the governor. But hello! How funny is it that the beer for the party was Hoplanta? I thought that was priceless. And of course we have to talk about the gladiator scene. Now the thing I find fascinating about the gladiator scene is something I find recurring throughout the show. They are getting more and more primitive. They're going back further into ancient customs naturally, just because the culture is broken down, society is broken down. What are you going to do? And I think it's a lesson to us. Who are you judging when you look back on ages past? Like Andrea had that reaction. This is barbaric. When you're looking back on these things, are we justified in doing that? Because we don't know the conditions that they're living in and what they're having to deal with. That's your point to ponder this week. The episode had its problems too. It was really an expositional episode. It moved very slowly, but that's to be expected. Last week and the weeks before that were so intense that we did have to slow down and get back to story. However, there was a lot of confusion going on. Glenn had Herschel and Axel dig 2 more graves in addition to the one that he dug. We don't know what happened to Carol. Her body has not been discovered, and I don't think the writers, the producers, would deny us the gratification of having her body discovered. They did know where T-Dog and Lori's remains were located though, so it's natural that they would bury those. However, when Rick comes into the boiler room where Lori's body should have been, it wasn't there. It was just a pool of blood. My first thought was they already went and got the body and buried it. They already showed Daryl putting a flower on what should have been Carol's grave, and all the graves were covered up. But then there's the bloated zombie, and in The Talking Dead, if you saw that after the show, the director verified that the zombie ate Lori. Well, then why did they dig a full-length grave for remains that they weren't even going to put in there? That doesn't make... Why didn't they go back and get her body? Why would they close up the grave? That was so confusing to me. The other thing that confused me were the marks in the governor's book after it went past Penny. I thought they were counting slashes. Like, did it mean that that was after Penny he stopped taking names? Is it the days since she turned into a zombie? According to the director in The Talking Dead, though, that was just a psychotic break where, you know, he just lost his mind at that point. That's what we're supposed to get out of it. But it wasn't really obvious to me. Now, I have to say, in the bonus Talking Dead, he did tell us that there were many deleted scenes, and I imagine that just made the show feel choppier. But I still don't get the grave to Lori's body being consumed by a zombie to a closed grave for Carol that Carol can't possibly be in. Alright, so what did you think about the episode? Were there any strong points you got out of it? And the question is, what do you think the experiments are? At one point the governor asked his little doctor dude, I can't remember his name, something about party tonight and concentrate on the experiment in the morning. So what do you think that's going to be? And how long it's going to be till we find out what that is? Let me know in the comments. Give me your feedback. I want a discussion about this. And we will see each other in another week. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.